Okay, we're going to talk about potatoes today. We can plant potatoes early. They're one of the earliest things you can put in the ground because they're buried and the frost doesn't seem to hurt them. We've actually had potatoes planted here since mid-April and they're doing fine. You'll notice in this bed where we planted the potatoes, I've dug a deep trench because you want to bury them to the bottom of your box or as deep as you can into the ground because potatoes do not grow down. They grow out and up. So last summer I planted potatoes 6 inches under and I only had 6 inches of potatoes. So this year I took people's advice and I planted them deeper because I'm hoping that we will produce more potatoes. So if you're wondering if you can take a potato, say you bought a bag at the grocery store and you didn't use them quickly enough and they started growing eyes, and you're wondering if you can cut that off and plant it, the answer is yes. That is a potato seed and that will produce a lot of potatoes. So this one here, off of one potato, if you cut it, you'll see there's 3 separate seeds there now. That'll grow 3 individual plants and each plant will produce a lot. When you plant your potato seeds, you only want 1 eye per seed. If you have more than 1 eye, like if I were to plant that, they will both grow, but what you'll do is you'll create competition between those 2 plants and it's not necessary. It'll actually maybe hinder the production of the potatoes. So 1 eye is lots per plant, and they also will get big. So when you put them in the ground, you can leave 1 foot or 1.5 feet between your seeds and they'll fill that space no problem. Don't plant them too close together, they'll just choke each other out. So these here were just for a demonstration, just to show, but these ones here that we've had in the ground since mid-April, I'm going to dig one up and try to illustrate what we're into here. There's one there, I got one. So this has been in the ground now for 3 weeks, 2 to 3 weeks, and you can see it's very much alive. You can see the white hairs, that's an indication of new growth, and you can see some green sprouts on them as well. So that's a happy potato seed, and I suspect it will make it through to the summer and produce lots. So I'm going to bury it back down again. And like I say, in this trench I've planted, roughly 1 foot to 1.5 feet apart. I have seeds up this trench, and as the tops of the plants, as the green starts coming out of the soil, I'm just going to take this top of the trench and just bury it under again and let it grow up until finally it'll be at the top of the garden bed, at which time I'll let the greens just go. An interesting thing about potatoes that I think is worth mentioning is you can harvest them long before you pull the plant. So as soon as you think that they're ready, you can just start digging gently around the surface of your garden bed or your garden, and you'll notice that there are nice new fresh potatoes right under the soil, and you can carefully pick those off all summer. I think we had 2 to 3 months last summer before we harvested the plants where we were eating fresh potatoes out of the garden. And then after you harvest the plants, you know, they last a long time. So I mean, if you can get half a year without really any major work eating fresh potatoes, I think it's definitely worth it. And something else to mention about growing potatoes is I've heard it said that they're relatively cheap to buy at a store or a market, which I believe to be true. But when you grow them yourself, you know that they're not being sprayed with herbicides or pesticides, which I think is a benefit. I'm not a big fan of eating anything that's had any sort of chemical herbicide sprayed on it. And also the fresh potatoes seem to have a better taste. So yeah, that's a few things to consider when you're planting your potatoes. Leave lots of space, go down deep. You only need 1 eye per seed, and they're actually pretty hardy and they do well in an East Coast climate, and hopefully you have good luck with them.